Hi, Assalamualaikum. I hope you are fine today because my friend and I will present the supply chain management topic. Let me introduce the members. The first one is Aino Faisha, the second one is Hafiz Shafi'i, the third presenter will be Siti Naziha, the fourth one Farhana Sofia, the last one Rabiatul Adawiyah. So this is our agenda today. Have fun guys.
Ensuring that a potential buyer accesses the full product range. Supply chain is all around us. Have you ever wondered where your clothes are made? Where your smartphone device was put together? They likely came from far away. Supply chain is getting a product and service from point A to point B and to anywhere and everywhere.
Assalamualaikum, I am Rabiatul Adawiyah binti Asadi. I will present about what is supply chain management. Supply chain management is the centralized management of the flow of goods and service and include all the processes that transform raw materials into final products. For example, all the processes that transform latex becoming gloves. By managing the supply chain, companies can cut excess costs and deliver products to the consumer faster. Good supply chain management keep companies out of the headlines and away from expensive recalls and lawsuits. The 5 most critical elements of SEM are developing the strategies, source raw materials, production, distribution, and returns. A supply chain manager is tasked with controlling and reducing costs and avoiding supply shortage.
Assalamualaikum and hi. My name is Hafiz Shafi'i and I will talk about how does supply chain management work. In simple terms, the overall workflow of supply chain management is split into 3 different categories, which is product, information, and finances. Every business that is a part of the supply chain works under one of these categories. Here's a little more about each one. Okay, for the first category is the product. The product flow includes the timely formation, storage, and delivery of products along the supply chain. It also involves conducting quality assurance at each product location. For the second category is information. The information flow consists of sending and receiving sales and purchase order, as well as updating delivery status. It is essential that this workflow runs smoothly because all the other workflow depend on the accuracy of information that is sent throughout the supply chain. The last one is finances. The finances flow deal with payments, inventory management, billing, credit terms, and other workflow related to finance.
Hi, I am Siti Naziha binti Mustafa and I will present about the importance of SCM. It is well known that supply chain management is an integral part of most businesses and essential to company success as well as customer satisfaction. So, what is the importance of SCM? Firstly, it can help to boost customer service. Customers expected a correct product assortment and quantity to be delivered to their doorstep by the supplier. Customers also expect product to be available anyway at the right location. For example, customer satisfaction will diminish if a car repair shop does not have the necessary parts in stock. The customer may have to wait for a days or for a weeks to get their car fixed, which is why important to have a good relationship with your customers. In addition, customers also expect product to be delivered on time. For example, customer satisfaction will definitely diminish if pizza made a delivery in 2 hours late or when the Shopee or Lazada parcels are delivered in 2 weeks. Therefore, with good SCM, it will boost good customer relationship when their products and service are specifically fulfilled. Other than that, a well-managed SCM will reduce the operating costs. Operating costs consist of the purchasing cost, production cost, and the total supply chain cost. Retailers depend on supply chain to deliver expensive product quickly to avoid holding costly inventory in store longer than necessary. This is because when the retailer holds product longer at the warehouse, they might not have enough space to store the other products. For example, electronic store require fast delivery of 60-inch flat panel plasma to avoid high inventory costs since the electronic item will use bigger space. SCM will help to decrease the production cost. Manufacturers also depends on supply chains to reliably deliver material to assembly plants to avoid material shortage that would shut down the production. For example, an unexpected patch shipment delay that caused an auto assembly plant shutdown can cost about $20,000 per minute and millions of dollars per day in lost wages if it is not delivered on time. Moreover, manufacturers and retailers depend on supply chain managers to design networks that meet customer service goals at the least total cost. Efficient supply chains enable a firm to be more competitive in the marketplace. For example, this revolutionary computer supply chain approach involved making each computer based on a specific customer order, then shipping the computer directly to the customers. As a result, Dell was able to avoid having large computer inventory sitting in warehouse and retail stores, which saved millions of dollars. Also, Dell avoid carrying computer inventories that could become technologically obsolete as computer technology changed rapidly. Lastly, SCM that is well managed will improve the financial position of the company. Firms value supply chain management because they help control and reduce supply chain costs. This can result in dramatic increase in firms' profits. Okay, for instance, US consumers eat 2.7 billion packages of cereal annually. So, decreasing US cereal supply chain costs just 1 cent per cereal box would result in $13 million save industry, which is wide as 13 billion boxes of cereal flowed through the improved supply chains over a 5 year period. Therefore, SCM will help to increase the profit leverage of the company. Supply chain management also plays a critical role in society. SCM knowledge and capabilities can be used to support medical mission, conduct disasters relief operation, and handle the other types of emergency. Firstly, SCM helps sustain human life. Humans depend on supply chains to deliver basic necessities such as food and water. Any breakdown of these delivery pipelines quickly threatens human life. For example, in 2005, Hurricane Katrina flooded New Orleans, which is LA, leaving the residents without a way to get food or clean water. As a result, a massive rescue of the inhabitants had to be made. Therefore, SCM is said to help to sustain the human's life. SCM improve humans' healthcare. Humans depend on supply chains to deliver medicine and healthcare. During a medical emergency, supply chain performance can be the difference between life and death. For example, medical rescue helicopters can save lives by quickly transporting accident victims to hospitals for emergency medical treatment. In addition, the medicine and equipment necessary for treatment will be available at the hospital as a result of excellent supply chain execution. Okay, lastly, SCM also contributes to job creation. Supply chains professionals design and operate all of the supply chains in a society and manage transportation, warehousing, inventory management, packaging, and logistic information. As a result, there are many jobs in the supply chain field. For example, in the US, logistic activities represent 9.9% of all dollars spent on goods and services in 2006.
Now we look at the drawback of supply chain management. There are 3 drawbacks of supply chain management, which are inadequate training, expensive, and complicated. The first drawback is inadequate training. Supply chain management requires qualified and trained human resource for effective executive within the company. Besides, integrating a new system into a working supply chain is complex and often requires restructuring and team member training. For example, the process must include clear details, planning, and meaningful communication between the team members. Inadequate training and knowledge regarding supply chain management could result in costly mistakes and excessive employee turnover. Hence, small companies may find it unfavorable to implement. The second drawback is expensive. It is because it requires large investment in terms of time, money, and other resources that become unaffordable for small businesses. For example, to avoid low-skilled workers, upper managers need to spend money and time to ensure that they understand exactly what is needed. Consequently, it will increase the cost and expenses for acquiring the task force in order to gain professional and highly skilled workers. The third drawback is complicated. The process of supply chain management requires numerous complexities as it involves several departments within the organization. It may lead to confusion and hamper the normal functioning of business. Employees may feel hesitant and unmotivated to accept this concept as it is new to them, thereby giving rise to several other difficulties. For example, if employees are used to using a manual calculation of inventory, it might create confusion and become hard for the employees since they need to learn how to run the new inventory system for their inventory keeping.
Now, let's look on the characteristics of an effective supply chain strategy. The first one is strong leadership. To be successful, supply chain must have top-tier management in place to oversee the procedures involved and keep a clear perspective on the company's bigger aims. Also, to avoid firms failing to place the right people in critical roles. Therefore, communication and teamwork are essential for long-term success, and it begins at the top. The second characteristic is widespread flexibility. Consumers' relationships with products and services are more fluid than before due to technological advancements. As a result, the company must be able to adapt to the needs of the consumers. Example is shipping and delivery options. To maintain a consistent level of service, the firms must be able to react quickly and always have a backup plan. This is to avoid customers noticing our inconsistency and lose faith in the company. Lastly, it is important to focus on customization. When it comes to product and service, customers choose to spend their hard-earned money on they nowadays expect a personalized experience. To some extent, this supply chain strategy extends to the requirements for adaptable business process. However, customization has a more direct impact on customers than behind-the-scenes flexibility. A focus on customization implies that a company will eventually be able to meet the needs of a larger pool of potential customers, hence it can maximize profitability.
Hi, we meet again. Now, I will talk about the challenges that supply chain management face nowadays, which is in this pandemic era, and how to overcome it. The first challenges is increasing in freight costs. Contrary to initial expectation, the need for container shipping has increased considerably throughout the pandemic, with worldwide lockdown measures inciting a surge in e-commerce sales. The response has been a greater import demand for raw materials and manufactured consumer goods, which is a large percentage of which are moved in shipping containers. And since this demand was much substantial than anticipated, it was met with insufficient shipping capacity and an unprecedented shortage of empty or available containers. As it often does, this scarcity has led to a spike in pricing. In the last year, freight rate from China to the West Coast have jumped by 240%. Next is difficult in demand forecasting. Demand forecasting in the middle of a global pandemic has added a new layer of complexity to many companies' supply chain management. The onset of COVID-19 essentially shattered the forecasting for countless retailers and suppliers of consumer goods or services, leaving them without a guide as to how much inventory to stock or manufacture at any given time. The challenge then has come from trying to improve predictions for customer demand while in many ways having to rely on gut instinct rather than data-driven research. Last one is changing consumer attitude. Consumer attitudes and behavior have changed in some big ways during the pandemic, as well like lowering the threshold for delivery times and raising the requirement for a positive customer experience. The challenge comes in having an agile supply chain that can harness the power of automation to optimize fulfillment and handle accelerated demand with ease. An excellent example of this supply chain flexibility comes from a multi-channel order fulfillment service and inventory management software. The first solution to the challenges is keep liquidity in your business. Protect your business with flexible access to capital. After all, having cash on hand is often the difference between meeting demand and going out of stock. With sharp ebbs and flow of inventory expected in the coming months, it's wise to consider a flexible line of credit that can be used to the stock up or evergreen or perennial items in high demand and pay for the priority manufacturing or shipping or even a freighting. Next solution is improve your demand forecasting. Without fail, the best way to improve forecasting is by using automations to calculate this metric on your behalf. E-commerce sellers are always looking for a balance between their inventory levels, warehousing costs, and the demand from their customer to prevent stock out or inventory shortage. With automated inventory alerts, forecasting tools, and cash on hand, machine can stock up with confidence based on predicted product demand or sales. What's more, making forecasting a priority can streamline inventory counts and reduce excess overhead fees. The last one is work with a freight forwarder. Partner with a freight forwarder or multiple to manage and track the shipment of your goods. While freight forwarding companies are accountable for the transportation of product from one destination to the next, they can also arrange the entire process for shippers and negotiate the best price or faster route. Retailers who work with a freight forwarder benefit from their vast knowledge of the supply chain in addition to their ability to handle unforeseen obstacles in a real time. What's more, freight forwarders are able to negotiate at scale by aggregate shipment of smaller retailers.
Next, let's look on the using technology to enhance supply chain management. The first one is business to business, they are also known as B2B. It is where e-commerce activities that take place between a business and its supplier and customers. Second, electronic data interchange. EDI is electronic connection that link an organization computer system with its customers and suppliers. Next is business to consumer, which is also known as B2C. E-commerce has exchange between business and its non-business customers. It is online sales of products such as purchase or search for online product. Lastly is ERP, means Enterprise Resource Planning. It is where the software package that support information system that span different functional areas of organization like account payables, human resource, and inventory management. Popular software that people use nowadays are Oracle, SAP, and Microsoft Dynamics.
Now let's proceed with the next part, which is managing supplier. Supplier management is a process to ensure the maximum value of supplier is received for the money that an organization pays to its supplier. There are 5 ways in managing supplier, which is relationship with supplier, selecting supplier, analyzing supplier cost, calculating total cost of ownership, and evaluating supplier performance. The first one is relationship with supplier. Company must develop good relationship with the supplier. It will help company to minimize supplier and inventory related costs. Lower costs may lead to the higher profit. It is also enhance product quality and improve production lead time. The second one is selecting supplier. When we want build relationship with supplier, we need to consider a few criteria. Today, we will discuss on 3 criteria only. The first one is reliable. Not only against the supplier who give the cheapest price, but it is also important to select reliable supplier who can meet variety of criteria such as supply specific quality of material and meeting delivery schedule. Next is efficient supplier. Any material or action taken by supplier will not create any unnecessary cost for the company. And lastly, long-term supplier. Company enter into the contract with the same supplier for a certain duration. They do not select different supplier each time they wish to purchase goods and service. It also allows the company to assess the ongoing performance of the supplier. The third one is analyzing supplier cost. Many businesses recognize the cost of dealing with supplier include a range of costs that are triggered by the purchase activity or by the supplier. That cost also known as total cost of ownership. Total cost of ownership is equal to the cost of purchasing, cost of holding inventory, cost of poor quality, and cost of delivery failure. To determine all these costs, we can use activities-based costing technique. The fourth one is calculating ownership costs. There are 3 levels of supplier activities and costs that are incurred by a buying organization. The first level is unit level activities. It is where additional activities that occurs as a result of problem related to faulty quality or late delivery by supplier. It will lead to the internal and external failure costs. The second level is order level activity. These activities are triggered each time an order is placed with a particular supplier, such ordering, receiving, inspecting an order, and processing and paying supplier invoice. The third level is supplier level activities. It is the activities that are incurred over the course of a supply contract. For example, undertaking a quality audit to evaluate the supplier and research and development. And lastly, evaluating supplier performance. Above analyzing of supplier costs can form the basis of evaluating supplier performance. For example, by using Supplier Performance Index (SPI). SPI is equal to the ratio of total supplier cost to the total purchase price. Other than that, we can use other criteria such as the ability to supply at the contract purchase price, material quality, supply delivery performance, and the quality of relationship between employees, unions, and management. Now I will pass our presentation to the next presenter.
Restaurant chain in the world, feeding 69 million people a day.
We're a lightning rod because of our size.
The food is fast.
Have a great day, thank you.
But what McDonald's serves up takes years to make.
Folks believe that food just shows up on their table.
We go inside the golden arches.
Oh, they're done.
To find out what's in the secret sauce and how a restaurant built on burgers and fries stays competitive in a world of changing appetite.
2 all-beef patties, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions, and sesame.
Next, we would like to talk about the company that applies supply chain management in their business, which is McDonald's. I am sure everyone are familiar with McDonald's, but did you know McDonald's supply chain is largely responsible for its amazing success and continued growth. Furthermore, McDonald's outsources 100% of their supply needs. Here are some fun facts about McDonald's. McDonald's have over 14,000 restaurants in the US and over 37,000 globally. Next, they buy over 2 billion eggs annually just in US. Moreover, there are 550 million Big Macs that being sold every year and 9 million pounds of French fries are sold every day. All of this activity surely requires an amazingly efficient supply chain that is cost-effective and dependable. Now, we look at how McDonald's are using supply chain management to conduct their business. First, they will outsourcing the ingredient. Second is the processing procedure. Third, for the delivery and logistic process. The next process is either to the restaurant or returning to the processing procedure. First, McDonald's outsourcing the ingredients such as cheese, onions, lettuce, chicken patty, and many more from the grower. Next, after the outsourcing procedure, they will process the product. Third is delivery and logistic. In this process, after the product arrives at the distribution center, they will outbound transportation either to the McDonald's restaurant or to return the product to processing procedure for return all the excess or unused product for the plastic crates.